All right, principal's report. Kristen?
On April 19th, Washington Post released its list of America's most challenging high schools for 2015. And this year, RB was ranked 10th out of the 72 Illinois schools that made the list, and that includes private and public schools, and 454th out of the 2,332 national schools that made the list. And that's up 100 places from last year, and only 11% of public high schools in the United States made the list. And this ranking is solely based on the number of advanced placement tests given in a school year, and then dividing that by the number of seniors who graduated, and they call that the Challenge Index. And we had a little over 1,000 AP tests taken last year. And so, while school rankings are only one way to measure the success of a school, I think this really is something to celebrate and speaks to our open door policy for AP and the hard work that the AP teachers do.
Very good.
Yesterday and today we completed the last round of PARCC testing for the year. So PARCC testing is the new state test, and we tested students in regular and honors English 10 and students in regular and honors geometry. So we anticipate receiving the results sometime over the summer. We're not sure what those results will look like in terms of what information is reported and how it's reported, but we're anxious to see what those look like. We also have advanced placement tests coming up starting on Monday, and they go for 2 weeks. And if somebody's watching and needs information about testing locations and times, that can all be found on our website. If you look at page 70 of the board packet, last month.
Can I ask you a question before you go on to the music? The park, there was a lot of news coverage about how school, kids were opting out and families were opting out. Did we have very many students who were unwilling to take the park test?
Not to my knowledge. We had some students who finished the test quicker than others, who were less engaged than other students, but all students took the test.
Okay.
So on page 70 of the board packet is a summary of summer school enrollment from last summer. I can't remember, but somebody had asked for it last month, so just wanted to provide that information to you again.
Does it look like we're going to offer the same?
It's a little too early to determine that. We still have almost a month for students to sign up for different courses, but we have shortened the bridge to AP courses from 5 days to 3 days in hopes that students will take advantage of those this summer, and they didn't last summer. Day of service was this past weekend, and despite the cold and rain, we had a great turnout. We had over 220 volunteers, including Mr. Cindy, Mr. Jepson, and Dr. Skinkis, and we got a lot accomplished around the community, so I want to thank the PTO for coordinating that event and making that a possibility for the students to give back to the community. And then lastly, we have a lot of events coming up. This is a really busy time of year for us. So we have the local scholarship event tomorrow. Prom is on Friday, so students are very excited for that. And then next week we have senior awards night, and then soon to follow the senior picnic, and then fine arts events as well with the choir concert and the chamber orchestra concert.
Where's prom this year?
Lowe's Chicago O'Hare Hotel in Rosemont. And then the last thing I want to present tonight is on the board packet in regards to some visitor comments that were made at previous Board of Education meetings for music enrollment and staffing. So,
Beth, want to join us?
There were some questions, so I'm going to try to address those as we go along, and then also there was some questions on the history of improv and ball play, and so I included that, which is why the board packet was re-released to include that, which will be the last page of the report, so I'll address that as well. But basically, this information you'll see as we go through shows that as school enrollment continues to increase, the music enrollment has decreased. So the first thing, if you look at the first chart, music enrollment by program, this is data from 2008 to 2016. We define music enrollment as enrollment in band, orchestra, choir, music creativity, which started in 2012-13, and AP music theory. And in the last 3 years, you can see that Band enrollment has decreased, while orchestra enrollment has increased. You can also see we provided information from the current enrollment of our feeder schools in 8th grade and what our enrollment will be next year for our freshman class. And so you can see there are 61 students in band currently as 8th graders, and next year for freshmen there's about 34 students, so you can see that there's almost a 50% drop off.
So for next school year, we have we did a total, I just want to make sure I understand this, because it's not on that slide, but it's on the feeder schools, 96, 94, 95. They have a total of 61 kids in their music program.
In their band program.
And out of all of our freshman registrations that have been completed, only 34 are either in band or music? Or just band?
In band.
In band, okay.
Orchestra, there's 29 students currently enrolled in 8th grade, and we have 21 that will continue as freshmen next year.
So about half the students that participate in band and orchestra in their junior high are not participating with us.
Correct.
Okay? And when we originally had 172, we don't know what enrollment was, but it was nowhere near our enrollment now. So we had 172 in band enrollment. We're down to 123 right now.
Correct. So the other pages will show overall school enrollment versus music enrollment as a whole. This is just broken down by the different programs within the music department.
And in the choir department, 14-15, we had 107, so we had a pretty big spike there. Beth, do you know, can you, and then all of a sudden we go back down to 89. It seems to be mostly 85, 90, 89, and 107. Anything we can attest to that? Was there just a big group of choral students that year? Or?
It's possible. Change of interest, the rich curriculum offerings we have at RB, giving students the opportunity of choice. Those are all possibilities.
AP Music Theory in 2014-15, the current school year, we have 9 students, and we ran that class this year with 9 students, correct?
Originally, there were 14 students when we decided to run the course, but through possible conflicts, because it's a singleton, maybe students' change of mind, we did start the school year with only 9 students.
13-14, we did not run it.
Correct.
And next year, we're not planning to run it.
No, we only had 3 students express interest in the course.
Okay.
Do we know if that's a typical drop-off between 8th grade and freshman year, like half the students who participate in grammar school participate in high school? Do you have any idea of that?
I mean, I don't know
And
what...
if you don't, it's fine. It just
Yeah, I
curious.
don't know what the original enrollment was, but decreasing by about half seems higher than...
What you'd expect.
Mhm.
Okay.
This is the first year we've specifically asked the feeder schools for that information.
That's what I was going to ask.
Mhm.
The feeder schools numbers also decline. We don't know.
We don't know.
We'll have to keep track of that.
Plus in choir too, you had a 33% of students participating in high school, so.
Well, choir's a little misleading because not all schools have choir in junior high during the school day. Some have it as like an after-school activity, so that's
Okay.
a little harder to make a comparison to.
Next page.
The next page is just overall music enrollment, excluding fine arts survey. So this graph shows as school enrollment has increased, the music enrollment has decreased. And this information does not include fine arts survey since it's a required course and not a music elective. So a couple of things I want to highlight. You can see orange is the music enrollment and the percent of our student population. And then below each year is the FTE. So in 2010-11, which was the highest music FTE of 2.6, we had 2 classes that were being co-taught. One was Honor Symphonic Band, and that was 80 students, and the other class was Concert Marching Band with 17 students. So both of those classes, both Kevin McGolligan and James Baum were teaching those classes.
So under our current staffing model, the 80 would have maybe been split into 2 sections of 40.
Correct.
And but the course of 17 would have never had 2 teachers assigned to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Also, if you look at 2014-15, there was a question as to why the enrollment dropped, but the FTE increased. And so the FTE increased because we offered AP Music Theory, which is a year-long class, as opposed to the semester class.
So what year did Mr. McGogan retire? Was that 13-14, my second year?
His last year was 12-13.
So we were at 2.0 and 12-13, not counting fine arts survey?
Correct.
And then we're been around 1.7, 1.8, 1.7. And so next year, we're projected at being, or that we're at 1.7 next year. So it's
Correct.
not like staffing has changed really.
Correct. And we staff based on enrollment just like we do for any other course or department. So if we go to the next page, which is Fine Arts Survey Enrollment. I know there's a lot of information on this page, but I wanted to provide the big picture of Fine Arts Survey. So this looks at all of the different rotations, and the information is regarding that. On the future pages, we only focus on the music rotation of Fine Arts Survey. So this chart compares student enrollment as a building, and then enrollment in Fine Arts Survey, and then obviously the FTE underneath each year, but then also the average class size. And so you can see in years past, this class was running at a much smaller class size than what we do now. So some classes, some years, we had rotations of 16 students, and remember the way Fine Arts Survey works is that there's a music rotation, a dance rotation, a theater rotation, and a visual arts rotation. So we had each of those rotations on an average in 1 year sitting at 16 students in a class. And so that's why you can see the FTE decrease a little bit from 11-12 to 12-13, but then it continued to decrease as enrollment in those courses decreased. The Fine Arts Survey waiver went into effect in 2013-14, and so you can see the impact that that has had as well.
Now, the purpose of showing the enrollment in the bottom is to show what?
To show that as, I think the intention of this course was for it to be a survey course to expose freshmen to the different areas of fine arts, and then hopefully pursue other electives or their passion in fine arts. And you can see that it was very popular in the sophomore year and senior year. And then as the waiver was instituted, you can see that for next year, there were only 20 freshmen that signed up and 43 sophomores and 43 juniors, and those will all be students on the waiver. So that's why there's a big spike in seniors, because that's still a required course for seniors next year. So if we go to the next page.
So saying your anticipation then in the 2016-2017 year, you're expecting probably a drop of 100?
Yes, I probably anticipate we'll have enough enrollment and enough interest to offer this class once. So right now we offer it once first semester and once second semester. I anticipate we'll probably be able to offer it once either first or second semester next year. So on the next page, music FTE, and this is now including the music portion of Fine Arts Survey. So this gives you the big picture of the FTE that we have allocated for music personnel. And so the graph illustrates that music and Fine Arts Survey enrollment has decreased. The FTE has decreased accordingly as well. So the blue is music enrollment and staffing. The orange on top of that is Fine Arts Survey enrollment and staffing only for the music rotation. And then you can see the totals on the very top for enrollment, and then the total enrollment in FTE in the bottom below the year.
So for 15-16, we have 1.7 FTE assigned to other music electives and 0.2 FTE assigned to Fine Arts Survey,
The music rotation of
for a
Fine Arts
total
Survey.
staffing of 1.9 for music.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I'm confused on this graph. Where's it in red? Where does that point for, say, the last year? Where does the point in FTE? There's 263 kids in the class. projected for 2015, 2016?
So the numbers in this graph are the
Can we
total
just-
enrollment. It's not for a specific class.
Can we just
So-
say what page we're on, so I don't get confused?
75.
No, he's on 74.
Give
Yeah,
the
I'm going
original
back,
and
I'm still
replace
stuck.
that one.
Oh,
She had the
okay.
page.
Okay,
That's the one.
sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
So this graph shows Fine Arts Survey as a whole, not focusing just on the music rotation. So within Fine Arts Survey, you have 4 rotations, so it's not like another class where there's only 30 students in one section.
So if you take 263 times 25%, you get 66. So 1/4 of it as they rotate, right? So you're saying as you rotate, the 1/4 is the 66 students. 66 students at a time will be in the music, 66 will be in
Dance.
32.
dance, or 32.
32.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Because we offer one first semester.
Right,
class.
because you got 2 classes, right.
Correct.
So if you take 1/4, because you got the 4 rotations, that's the number you're coming up with to get 66.
Correct, which is why, John, we had the average class size below, so you could see there's about, for 2015-16, there'll be 32 students in each rotation as they go through.
So why, I'm still confused, why is it like 0.8 FTE? Don't you have 2 classes? Didn't you just
Yeah,
say-
but for Fine Arts Survey, every session needs 4 teachers.
One
Because
quarter of the
it's-
classes in each rotation for the semester, John. So they do like a half a quarter in each of the 4 rotations.
So for example, next year, we're scheduling Fine Arts Survey, second period.
So it's only half a quarter, so there's, okay, so that's what I'm missing. All right.
Go on, what were you gonna
There's,
say?
so we're scheduling Fine Arts Survey, second hour, second semester, and third hour, first semester, but there will be 4 teachers assigned to each of those periods.
So I guess I want to know, what's the total number of FTEs for this Fine Arts Survey course?
Oh,
For next year,
That's
0.8.
0.8.
0.8, it's in red.
Not for music, I'm talking about the whole thing.
0.8.
0.8.
This one's overall. Next, the other information is just on music. This
0.8,
is
and a
overall
quarter of
Fine
that
Arts
is
Survey.
music, so on page
0.2.
75, it's 0.2.
Thought we were on 74.
We're on 74.
I'm still not getting it, I'm sorry.
So if you had 240 kids sign up for Fine Arts Survey,
Okay, so let's take 2014, 2015, there's 250 kids, that's this year.
all right, so you
Okay.
break that up over 2 semesters, 125 take it first semester, 125 take it second semester.
Okay,
Out of those 125, 1/4 of them are gonna be in music, 1/4 are gonna be in dance, 1/4 are gonna be in acting, and then there's 1/4 in
Visual arts.
visual arts. So you're basically paying 4 teachers to teach that 1 semester course.
so it's
And then-
3.2 FTEs, basically, for Fine Arts Survey.
No,
No.
because it's a semester course, it only counts as a 0.1 for each teacher.
Okay.
So that's a 0.4 to run it first semester, and that's a 0.4 to run it second semester. So it counts towards our total budget of 0.8 FTE, just to run that class once each semester.
Okay.
So music FTE, were there any questions on this chart?
So the key thing you're saying right now is where people say that we're,
Not there yet.
oh, I'm sorry.
We're gonna keep going.
there's more data
So
here.
the next,
data.
the
More
next
data,
chart
okay.
goes in, the next chart goes into more detail, so the music staffing information chart. So this chart outlines the music FTE from 2007 and 16 through 2016. And what I did is, as I was going through, I highlighted the cells in blue that indicated James Baum was full-time for music. And then the cells in pink indicate the years where there was less than 2.0 FTE for music. And so you can see, as you look down James Baum's column, there were 3 years where he was full-time music. There's a question about 2013-14, the .1 independent study. That was an opportunity for James to meet with students on an individual basis. There was a scheduling error, and we didn't catch it in time, so we gave him the .1 FTE.
So I
in
got
order
a
to do
question
that.
on this graph from 2007 through 2010. We're showing 3 full-time FTEs, but then it drops down slowly from that. Why? What's causing a drop-off? Were we overstaffed at that time, or were we?
Well, this is one of those things that when we pulled all the records, we were paying for 3.0 FTE, but we were not running 3.0 FTE music classes. So even though we had 2 full-time teachers and 1 part-time teacher, all 3 were getting full-time salaries.
Were they doing other things though?
Well, we had smaller classes. Does that come into it? Because it looks like we had classes with only 16.
Our records from the files could not show that they were teaching a full 1.0 schedule.
And Laura, your question to
So they're getting full-time in that.
smaller classes, that will go on the next page, and you'll see that, yes, there were running classes that were smaller.
Right, because I think I saw from a previous chart on when you had the average
Right.
number, so in the early years, it looked like you were running these closses with 16. So right there, that would
Yeah,
double your
I think what
staff.
John's question though is on from 2007 to 10.
Okay.
It looks like when you look at those staffing charts, like we had 3.0 FTE, but we really were only offering 2.7, 2.6, 2.7 FTE, but we were paying full-time salaries for all 3 people.
Plus, in 2011 through 12, that school year, part of that .4, so out of the 3, .4 was academic support, which wasn't even associated with
Right.
music, right?
Well, that's why I think what Kristen was trying to show, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, the FTE staffing, out of, all the years that each person's been here, it tells how many years they've really been a full-time music teacher. So by in blue, we've had, Mr. Baum's been a full-time music teacher 3 out of his last 8 years, or 7 years, whatever that is. And then Ms. Morelli's always been full-time, and Mr. McGogan was full-time till he retired.
Correct.
What is FAS?
Fine Arts
.1?
Survey.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
What's the pink recognized then?
The pink just highlights the years in which we've had less than 2.0 FTE allocated for music. So this next year, 2015-16, is really not the first year that we have had less than 2.0 FTE allocated towards music.
What is on 2013, 2014 for James Baum? .9 music and .1 independent study. What is that?
Just talk.
So the independent study was, we had a semester where we gave James the opportunity to meet with students individually to help them with lessons because there was a scheduling error and we didn't realize it in time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
to
That's
work.
We're just seeing if you can answer the question twice the same way, Kristen. That's why we do that sometimes.
I spent a lot of time on
And you
this
did it
slide.
the same way, so congratulations.
On the next page, music sectioning. So this chart shows, sure.
Gotta go back 2 pages.
No.
Page 75?
This bothers me a little bit. This gets back to the whole referendum thing too. What this shows is we're having teachers here that really weren't assigned. I mean, was this just for music or was it everywhere?
We're not prepared to answer that question tonight.
Yeah, I don't know that Kristen, who was not here then, could
Yeah.
answer that
I'm just
question.
bringing the topic up because this is like a red flag, to me at least.
And, Dr. Skinkis wasn't here, so I don't
It's
know
still-
that.
I know, but my point is, representing the community and the taxpayers, when they hear this, I mean, it's a cause for concern, and I just want to make sure that, I know we've addressed it, and Kevin's addressed it, but I'm just throwing this out there.
Well, there was something in those years, which we don't have now, and Beth might be able to give us some insight. It was like the mentoring, like an academic support, where a student would be paired with like a counselor who followed that student all through their high school career. That may have taken up some of those hours.
I'd give my own feeling on answering your question. I mean, you know, thinking back to how this was before Kristen became the principal in 2013-14, Pamela was still here, right?
Correct.
But, I mean, let's face it, Kevin diced and sliced those numbers and made sure our class sizes were staying in it, and we, you know, I mean, I would be very surprised, I mean, you know, errors happen. You know, it's a big staff, it's a big school. I think as careful as you're gonna be, occasionally you're gonna have an error. I'd be stunned to find out, and if you get your chance to tell us that there was some other error and we had some other teachers that really weren't assigned to a class.
Since I've been here, that has been the only error.
Okay.
It's the only year I'm aware of.
Okay.
That's what I probably anticipate.
Yeah.
The question comes up. So, I just want, and I know we've done a good job with this, that's how we're running the school, that's how we're going forward. And it's, I think, most people on this board would agree with that.
I think the purpose of the chart with the one prior, Mary Ann, that you have up, I think what Kristen's trying to show is there's been a lot of citizen comments that have come in and said, you know, we used to have three teachers for less students, now we have more students and we're going down. And I think what Kristen's trying to show here is that really out of those 3 teachers, though, you know, some of it was more for academic support, or the teacher was just getting paid full-time and was only working part-time. You know, really it's been closer to 2.0 or 2.5. And then you saw some of the class sizes for the Fine Arts Survey, and, you know, if you start going back and you look at the FTE for music, and then you go back 3 pages and look at the FTE average class size for Fine Arts Survey, you can see where some of that additional staffing was coming. We don't have that flexibility in our budget anymore. But it's not directly pointed at a music. I mean, somebody from English can easily show you their class sizes over the last 7 years and show that they have continuously gone up. I mean, that's what happens when you're going through, you know, trying to tighten up the budget. So it's not pointed at one specific program. We're trying to use the same standard for everybody. I mean, 2 of you deal with this on a daily basis. So.
And you'll see that in two pages when we talk about courses that didn't run.
So do you want us to move to the next page?
Yeah, so the next page is music sectioning, and this chart shows classes under 20 or over 40 students, and this again is excluding Fine Arts Survey. And so you can see that this chart basically shows that in the past 7 years, there's always been at least 2 music courses that have been combined, and at least 1 course that's had over 40 students. So it's not new to have a band or orchestra or choir class at over 40 students. You can also see that in 2012-13, courses under 20 were limited to AP Music Theory and Madrigals, which are the capstone classes in the music program. So you can see that the courses under 20 significantly decreased over the years.
So if I'm a parent and I have a student that wants to take AP Music Theory, is there a way for him or her to take the class online to get the credit, or is that?
I don't believe there's an opportunity for them to take it online. That would be a really difficult course to take online, which is why I think it's not offered through Illinois Virtual School or the credit recovery program we use.
However, a student is always has the option to take the test. If they choose to study on their own, we can certainly order an AP exam and they can take it on their own. It wouldn't be considered an independent study, but the option to actually take the AP exam in May would be given to them.
Okay.
Does Triton offer
I was going to ask the
that
same
class?
question.
Not that I know of.
They offer something similar, but not
It's not AP.
AP Music Theory.
But if they take it at Triton, they get
The course
college
would
credit
prepare
anyway,
them, right? Or they
So-
could also choose to sit for the AP test in addition to that if they wanted to.
And we talked about that years ago, where there's just a handful. We still point them in the direction that they might be able to take something at Triton, Beth?
Yeah, and the Apex program that we are working with, it's certainly a class that we could suggest. Just received a survey asking for our feedback. Maybe that's a course that we suggest as a possibility that they offer in the future for students.
Okay.
Next.
I know it was also discussed too that it's an every other year course, so students could plan accordingly, and then maybe that would help with the enrollment. If we were counseling freshmen to think about taking it as a sophomore or a senior, then maybe that would help the enrollment.
Okay.
It's never been a high enrollment class.
No, it's not, because the students that want to take AP Music Theory are those same students that are in multiple other AP courses. And when you get to something senior year where AP Environmental Science is a singleton, AP Calc BC is a singleton, you know, all of these classes, Madrigals is a singleton, they all butt up against each other. So it really just comes down to choice.
In the past 8 years, the highest enrollment in that course has been 17.
Okay.
So on the next page is a list of courses that did not run due to enrollment for the past 3 years. And so I've broken it down by fine arts courses, applied arts courses, and other courses. And, you know, the sectioning process is we have students sign up for courses that they're interested in, and then we look to see courses that are sectioned at 30 to 1. We always use the plus or minus 2 standard, so we're looking at, you know, enrollment around 28 to 32 students. And, you know, we try to get close to 28 as possible, so usually courses of 26 and 27 are courses that run, but we typically don't bring elective courses that are around 20 to the board because they're singleton, so they're only offered once a day, so often you have students that conflict out, and then you're sitting with courses that are well under 20. And so typically what we do when we have situations like that, and Beth can speak to this, is we have guidance counselors talk to them about other courses that are very similar and ask them if they'd be interested in enrolling in those.
So actually, after we run through the first sectioning meeting, we really look at what do we know for sure is running, and then what can we try to condense, because we do offer such a rich offering of electives. And so we look at how can we push students and encourage them to take some of these other electives so that we can really build that enrollment and keep that enrollment up, and we're not looking at classes under 20 in the fall because students either change their mind or they conflict out of the course.
Just a question with the improv, is that why it was cut? Because the thought that although there were 20 people interested, that some would drop.
Yes, and we also looked at that class list, and several of those students had also signed up for acting and directing or advanced acting and directing.
So they can't be in 3 singletons because they're only... And so the other misnomer, to make sure we get this on TV, is 20 doesn't mean a class runs. If it's an elective, you know, the board has made a concentrated effort over the last 3 years to try to address math, science, English, and the Western civilization courses, our core academic courses and graduation requirements, trying to get them closer to 25. If a course is on the list of being an average of 30 to 1, like Kristen said, we use plus or minus 2. So if 27 kids, 26 kids sign up for it, we'll probably give that a chance to run. But we don't bring the board every course that's right at 20 because we know there's going to be conflict. So what we try to save the less than 20 policy for the board is, hey, this is our capstone foreign language class. This is our capstone math class. There's probably only 12 kids in the school that can take calculus BC. That's why we bring, so, you know, there's really no other course that kids maxed out. You know, and that's why we ran AP Music Theory this year. We had 12 students, which was up from the year before, so that's why we chose to offer it this year. As you see, some students conflicted out from 14 to 9, and now we're at 9. So it looks like we're running a class at 9. It's hard to create a balance, and I constantly push it back on Beth and Kristen because they'll have departments that maybe had an elective at a course running at 32 or 33 that says, you know, they can maybe go down to 2 sections of 16 and 15 and recruit more kids. And instead we give a point of an FTE to the class to run at 9 kids. It's like, you know, trying to maintain the balance of FTE and in a balanced budget, it's a process. That's why we start scheduling so early, and it takes us a couple months to work through all this. Beth, you mentioned earlier about rich electives. I mean, do you feel that I mean, when I look at this chart just for next year, I just did some quick counting, but it's close to 30, if not slightly over 30 courses that are on our books, so 30 different electives that we offer students a chance to sign up for if they're interested in that aren't running. So it's kind of like, you know, it's almost like an election where when too many people run, they split the vote. They kind of, sometimes our electives are almost canceling out each other because there is so much to choose from. 5 kids sign up for this, 10 kids sign up for this, 12 kids sign, and really none of them are going to run because there's never close enough of the interest. There's not 25 kids or 30 kids interested in it, and so those things. Is that something that we need to look at, maybe taking some of these electives off the books? Are there ones that haven't run for multiple years?
Well, for example, accounting hasn't run for years, but the Applied Arts Department put forward a proposal to make a change so that it was business marketing and accounting. And so just making a title change, it attracted some students with that business component. So I think that was a really smart move. And I think that having the instructional coaches look at all of their electives and see possibly things that could be combined, could be changed, could be offered every other year, so that they're not kind of fighting for those same spots, because our students do take a full academic load with their core classes consistently freshman through senior year. So there really isn't a lot of room for electives, so we really want to give the richest offering and to ensure that students are getting their first choices. You know, it is difficult when a student requests a class and only 3 or 4 students sign up, and then we have to have that conversation that it's not running. So I do think that's probably something as a leadership council that we could really start looking at the beginning of the school year, and how we could make some good choices in our offerings.
I have a comment and a question. It shows here that our applied arts courses really have grown. It looks like this is an area where it has really seen a considerable amount of growth. And with that, is there any way some of those might do well in the summer, like the graphic arts or something like that? I mean, some of these applied art courses, could these elective courses be offered in summer to give students a chance to try them?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit, that we're trying to pack in a 90-day course into 3 weeks, as they could get the true experience.
But for an election like computer animation, you know,
Right.
it's a great opportunity to see if that's something you would be interested in, and if you can possibly do that in the summer.
So we are exploring that a little bit this year. We're offering creative writing just as a workshop, so it's not for credit, but it's 5 days to see if students are interested in that. And there are 2 others, I believe, I can't remember them right now, but we're seeing if students are interested in exploring that over the summer and in signing up, and so we'll see. So that's kind of our effort, to see if students will be interested in exploring those different interests.
Or even splitting them for a half credit over 2 summers.
I do like your idea, one idea about rotating every 2, maybe every other year, doing the offerings too, and rotating those around.
Is it something you would consider then? I mean, I think I put people are saying the same thing, but like in college, sometimes they offer a course one semester every other year.
Right.
And people know when they come in, if they're gonna take it, they got 2 opportunities. Is that something that we have done or we would consider doing?
There are some classes like the pre-engineering and pre-architecture classes. Those are offered every other year, and I think the counselors have done a really good job at advertising that for students that are interested in that area, so they know ahead of time. So in thinking about the class of 2020, that when we're introducing the curriculum guide to them, that they're really aware when they're making out their 4-year plans, these are classes that are offered as freshmen and juniors, and these are classes that are offered as sophomores and seniors. And we do have a few of those running that way, and it seems to be working because we are always running a full section, if not 2 sections of those. So it is something that we should probably revisit and look at more courses that we could do that with.
But would that help out in the arts too? Because I see, if you look at some of them, make 6 kids apply every year for the same class.
Right.
But we probably never run it.
Right, well that is RB, in that we give students choice. to choose what they want, and, you know,
Yeah,
because.
but the same concept, even if you ran a class every 3 or 4 years,
Mhm.
if you run one class every 4 years, you know, and again, I don't know if it's too advanced if a freshman could take it, but let's
Right.
assume they could, and everybody knows that coming in, you got an opportunity. It's
Right.
this semester. If you want to take it, fine. If you're
Right.
not, you're never
Mhm.
going to have a chance. And if you have 6 people apply every year for it, so they could be the same 6 kids.
Yes.
They could be.
A lot of
Yeah.
years,
That's the
too.
thing.
But I mean, it just seems like, because the kids don't know that's the issue, but we do.
Mhm.
So if there's just ways to consider that,
Yes, to offer students as many elective opportunities each year possible, and
but I'm
and
saying
actually
that's
have them
not the,
run.
if you offer as many each year, they're spreading out their votes
Yeah.
to a bunch of different classes,
Right.
and they're not ever getting their person elected.
Yeah,
But if
I-
I'm spreading out my votes over 4 years, and I
Mhm.
know this is only gonna be available that one semester, I may or may not be able to take it, but at least I can think about it and plan for it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think in
Okay.
looking at what our electives are and making it, setting it up in a way so that kids really do have access to them and that they're going to run every other year or
Okay.
every, you know, once every 4 years, something like that.
How big of an effect, in your opinion, because we've dealt with so much of the citizen comments, to bring the board up to speed, is the altering of the PE waiver?
So that
Has that played a
students that.
role in music enrollment and choir enrollment?
I mean, I think I would be kind of guessing at that, but do I think students, when they did not have to take PE and could take a full year of marching band, and that allowed them to add additional class in, yes, I think that has impacted students in deciding, well, since I don't get that additional semester off, maybe I'll just not take marching band. Did I answer your question?
Well, I mean, the board that was my first or second year where the board had asked some good questions, and we looked at the data, and we realized that we were only doing marching band in the fall, but yet we were giving kids a waiver for the entire school year.
Mhm.
A kid that was running cross-country and running an average of 3 miles a day was only getting a PE waiver for 9 weeks during their season, and then had to go right back in that semester.
Right.
So, you know, the idea of a PE waiver is because you're getting the physical activity some other place,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Not to eliminate a course. And so, when we addressed that, we changed it so that if you're in marching band, you only get a PE waiver for the
Right.
semester.
Right.
So those kids are able to take maybe other music electives or other
Applied
electives.
arts, some fine arts, yes.
And that changed now. So you're gonna see some drop-off in numbers. And it basically leveled the playing field with all of our non-fine arts students, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
Well, there's very few music courses that have been eliminated because of lack of participation, especially courses where students are playing instruments. It's only the world percussion. They've not had hardly anybody sign up for that. And the AP theory, but that's,
Kind of like in every other year, almost.
yeah, I mean, but it's not as if we were cutting a band class or cutting a chorus class.
Correct.
I was, again, because at the end, I think we need to wrap.
Do you,
Can I have, the question I have for you, the one thing you don't show, and I'm sorry, but on your prior slide, you show for 2014-15, there's 3 classes above 40, there's 1 below 20, so that's 4. And then the 2 combined, that's 6. And we have 2 fine arts survey, that's 8. So do you happen to know what the other 2 classes were? And if you don't feel like you have to go. I'm just curious, because some part of what we need to understand is how you wrap this up versus what we're seeing here in the comments we made. They seem to be pretty dichotomous to me. So, you know, the other thing people point out that, you know, music might become a core course, but it seems like we pretty much offer enough music, even the ones that are running, where if people want to be involved in music, they have plenty of opportunity for it.
One course was cadet marching band. Another one would be chamber choir.
So a band and a choir, basically, okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'd be interested in seeing is that historically, X number came in freshmen, then X minus Y stayed as sophomores, and then X minus Y minus Z were juniors. Has there been a drop-off in the pattern where from freshman year to senior year, you've had a big drop-off of participating in the band, more so in more recent years than in the past?
Well, I think if we look at that first chart, we see we dropped
You can't
50.
see.
Yeah,
You dropped 50 students in that very
No, we
first
can't.
chart she showed us.
you can't tell if they're
We
the
can't
same
tell by
class.
class.
By
You can't tell if
class.
it's
Oh,
by
Can't tell if it's a
class.
bigger
Right.
class came
Yeah.
in or not.
Right, that would be interesting to see, that, you brought in 40 freshmen, and it dropped to 35, and now you bring in, or in the past it was 50, and it stayed 50.
We could certainly do that for some years. We can't go, we can only go back in our current system to get that. We can't go back in the old system to get the class breakdown by different grade levels, but we can do it for the past at least 4 years.
4 years.
That'd be a good to start. So you want to more or less see as a kid that's a band student staying with marching band all 4 years, or does it seem there's a dropping point?
Right, is that potentially a pattern there?
Right.
Then you understand the underlying pattern and why that's happening.
Well, it could be as they take more AP courses, they just can't fit in band.
Well, that would be consistent in all the years, right?
Right.
So that wouldn't be a recent issue.
No,
It's not like we just added AP in the last 2 years.
I get, right, well, we'll look at it.
That and the PE waiver is going to affect that.
PE waiver might affect it, though, as the kid gets towards junior, senior, taking an AP capstone. Right, Beth? You're the expert on it, so.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions through page 78? Seeing none, let's go to page 79.
So our last page. So this page shows the overall participation in some of our fine arts activities, so shenanigans, orchestra, spring musical, and fall play. And you can see the enrollment has increased from 2014 15 to 13-14, and that's due to the addition of the fall play. As you look at the spring musical and fall play, what I did was the first line is the total number of students that participated, and then the first number underneath that is the students on stage, and then the other number is either the students in the orchestra pit or behind stage or working with the production.
And then Kristen, I know we couldn't, this was put together just to, based on questions. I know some of the historical information we gave for fall play prior to this was they were using small numbers. That's why when the board brought it back this summer, they wanted to make sure we use fall play, did productions that would increase the amount of students involved, right?
Correct. In 1 year, we had 8 students. They chose a play that had 8 students on stage in the past. Yes.
Okay, any questions on this?
You broke down in the first 2011-12, Kristen, in the footnote, the improv and shenanigans. We still have both or not?
The information that we have in our computer is the number of students participating in shenanigans. So I don't know how many students we have, if any, that come and participate in the improv portion of that, or if it's just the students on stage. Shenanigans is the students on stage, and then they had students in improv that would just come and practice with them. I don't know how big their practice group is.
I thought we had a separate club for the improv. We combined them.
They're combined.
Oh, okay. All right, I got it. I'm sorry.
All right, any other question, Kristen? Beth?
I have a couple. So if I go back to your chart, and you don't have to go, but where some classes that were very low, like theater tech and directing and acting and choreography, can we presume that the kids might be interested in that? Hopefully we're able to get involved in the spring or the fall musical or play then?
Yes, so with the hiring of David Weissar, who is a new applied arts teacher, he's teaching construction tech, and so he actually assisted in designing and building several aspects of the set this year. So for next year, we talked to those 7 students and encouraged them to sign up for construction tech. And so then that they would also have that opportunity of assisting with the musical.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Kristen and Beth?
So I
Good
guess-
analysis here, very good.
How do we wrap this up? What are we doing what we can, doing things right, and why, if that's true, which I take what you always tell me is true, or I ask you about it, is why is there 1,000 people on a survey and people coming here meeting after meeting saying we're devastating the arts and the music program? So, again, this seems correct. And yes, we have less students in it and we have less teachers, but again, compared to what we do at other subjects here, we actually have made some more availability in some ways, right? But for some reason, people who are in the arts think, we're getting letters from kids who graduated 20 years ago about how, we're the not very nice people sitting up here, and it's not what appears to be the message here. So why and how do we correct the message and try to get people to understand we haven't devastated the arts and the music program here?
I think.
And he left, so maybe I should really direct it at Kevin, but since you're.
Maybe
on the
Bob
hot seat.
Skolnick can write a very good article about showing all the details and everything like that. That would be pretty nice. I think that would work to show the facts.
I think this report is one way to do that.
Okay.
I think perhaps there may be a misunderstanding that it was targeted to the music program specifically, and a lack of understanding that this is how we approach sectioning overall for all departments, that we section solely based on enrollment. Those are the things that we can control and can address to try to make sure that there is a consistent message moving forward of how we approach staffing.
And in the second question, Kevin asked some of the questions, but in the fine arts survey, there was a lot of discussion on whether we should allow more waivers. Beth, I don't remember, Kristen, if you were here when we changed that, but, and the question was, okay, yeah, but there's more flexibility and other things people want to take. I mean, overall, in some sense, again, if you count the kids taking classes as a vote, the student body has said, yeah, we're happy you did that because they're doing other things instead of taking fine arts survey, right?
And Fine Art Survey is still a course that's offered.
My
It's
son
just
took it
allowed-
this year.
Hmm?
My son took it this year.
Yes, it still is an offered course for students to take if they wish to take it.
Right.
But I think as a board, you have worked to give students options. So that student who is the four-year music student, that replaces taking the Fine Art Survey, or the student that is the 4 years in choir, that it replaces the Fine Art Survey.
We've also, I think because of that, we've seen an increase in applied arts. Students are interested in, health occupations and some of the business courses that Beth talked about. We're offering a new AP, it's not AP next year, but it will be moving forward, AP Computer Science Principles. And that's been a popular choice. And then in social science, AP Macro and Micro both have increased by 50 students next year.
Wow.
So while there's a decrease in fine arts, the students have to go somewhere, and so it appears that students are interested in those areas and enrolling in those courses.
Yeah, we've seen an increase in sociology, a couple of extra sections, so that's where students' choices are going. I think it's interesting with micro macro, and that now students, they had the choice before to take one or the other. Now that they have to take both, we were anticipating a drop, which we didn't. We've seen an increase. Students wanting to take both courses, so that does take up a semester in their typically a sophomore schedule. We've seen an increase in the number of sophomores taking an AP Computer Science class. We've seen an increase in seniors taking 2 math classes and 2 science classes their senior year. So again, we are making decisions on FTE based on students' choice, and I think we do a fair job, the counselors do, in really promoting all of the electives and giving that information, and then it's a student and family choice in making the best decisions for their students and for their future and the options that they have ahead of them for college planning.
Will this be put on the website?
It'll be part of the packet.
Yeah.
You know, Kristen, I think you might have answered it, but something Beth said, there were several people made comments that supposedly we discouraged students from signing up for music courses. And it seems to me you made a point that you tried to encourage kids to say that course probably isn't going to run, but this one would if some more kids join in. I mean, is there any way that we could even know or verify that there wasn't discouragement from people signing up for music courses?
Yes, Beth actually talked to the guidance counselors to verify
Okay.
that.
Yes, and I think that they do their best to get to know their students and their interests and their plans for the future. And if it's a student that is expressing an interest in accounting, they're going to encourage them to sign up for the accounting course. If they're interested in engineering, to sign up for the drafting CAD courses. There are so many periods in the day, and so they try to advise students to, if they're a senior, try to take government in the summer. If they're a sophomore, try to take health in the summer to free up spaces. But our students are very busy with other activities in the summer. So that is not a truth in that students were being discouraged to take music. I think given some of the changes with the waivers with Fine Arts Survey and some of the changes with the applied arts, cultural studies, fine arts, students just have more choices. So it's helping, it's educating them on what all of their options are and not necessarily discouraging them, but having them make well-informed decisions on what courses they're taking.
Thank you.
So I think if we were to have a communication after this, probably on the website or something, we have just as many, if not more, classes in the fine arts. Certainly our vocational educational courses, our applied arts courses have really increased. Somehow we need to get that message out that there are just so many more opportunities. Nothing's been cut, and again, it depends if people sign up. I mean, if nobody comes to the movie, it's pulled down from the theater. So I don't understand.
Well, we've definitely seen an increase in the visual arts. There's multiple sections of photography, multiple sections of ceramics, of drawing and painting, and students taking 2, 3, 4 years of that and going on to AP Studio Art. So we've seen an increase in that, and the AP Studio Art class is running with strong numbers this year.
I think the only other argument that one could make is that staffing in music could be up if we went to smaller class sizes. Well, that would apply across the board, right? So I think the reason Kristen showed the historical of combining the music classes, that's been something that's been going on here for long before we had to start tweaking the staffing process.
You know what I think maybe be a good way to recap this is maybe into month 2 of the new school year is to come in front of the board and show what the students have voted from the elective side and how it compares to the past. So if you're saying now the visual arts is becoming a big push, it'd be great to hear that and public hear that they've elected by their votes to go into that realm of arts as opposed to choosing another one, and to give a general sense of where the pattern's heading. Maybe that would be the best after 2 months into F1 staffed and it's running, to come through and say the current body of students are pushing towards AP, economics, or business, and visual arts, and other classes have gone down.
I think to wrap it up, the communication is a key thing, that the information has to get out there. Some of what I read out in the letters and emails were inaccurate and untrue facts. And so the people, or the source of the facts that aren't true are being told louder than what is really the pure information that we have right here. So I think going forward, getting our communication to understand that. When I tried to explain this issue to somebody, I said, in early spring, we have to determine what teachers are we going to have on the rolls in the fall without knowing specifically our population or our schedule. And so we have to, by law, tell them within 45 days of the close of the school year if they will be a full-time teacher in the fall. And sometimes we make a call to say that they may not be, and we have to give them that legal notice. But come the fall, they may be a full-time teacher. But we can't, in the fall, decide because the statute or the law tells us we have to do that ahead of time. And so there's some inefficiencies in schools that cause us to do things like that. And they said, well, that would be good to know, that type of statute or law, drives some of our decisions.
But I think the key point that we've talked about in athletics, but I think it also generates with fine arts. We need to have people in this building going out to the feeder schools, showing them what we're offering in fine arts, showing them the fine arts experience at RB, to generate that interest and not just say, come on in, oh, this is what we got. Being able to create that interest, which will then keep on building momentum, and then we'll keep on raising the fine arts and showing them what we got. I think that's a key thing.
Well,
And we have that right
interest,
now.
Yeah.
But I think a real clear message though is we have interest, and that's, like Gary was saying, every class has a unique personality. And I think it would be very interesting to show that this is the personality of this class. Some classes will be more science geared, some will be very creative and artistic, some will be more acting or dancing, and you'll see these fluctuations. But the students, unlike students in the early 80s or 70s, we don't have to push them into electives. They would take many more if the day was 8 or 9 hours. And I think we need to tell that story.
Who runs our website?
He left.
Mike.
Here's what I'd like. I'd like a flag or something on our website that says, music information presented to the board. I mean, I know you said it's in the packet, but I want a separate thing that says music information. So someone could go to our webpage, oh, great, click, here you go. I think we got to be more proactive and then make it easy.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much, both of you, for doing this great job,
Very
great
good.
analysis.
Yep.